Welcome to the Imperial Newsstand. I'm Alan Imperial. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and how our states and counties in the United States are handling it, and what are next steps if it gets worse. So, as of right now, there are 10 places in the United States that are pretty much in lockdown, known as shelter in place, pause orders, or stay at home orders. There are three counties in the United States right now that have these orders in place. They are San Miguel County in Colorado, Athens Clarke County in Georgia, Blaine County in Idaho. These all have shelter in place orders. There are 7 states that have similar orders for the entire state: California, New York, Illinois, Connecticut, Oregon, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They all differ slightly, but they all have the same messaging. First, as Pennsylvania calls it, if you have non life sustaining businesses, you are to close. Period. Same thing for New York and New Jersey and California. If you could work at home, awesome. If you can't work at home, the business is shuttered. They are taking drastic actions. They are also saying we can't hang out in groups of 10 or more. I say we shouldn't be hanging out with anybody outside of our home, but that's me being a little paranoid. Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey has said that we have to change our behaviors. We need we need you to just stay at home. And I think that's the best advice for the foreseeable future, at least for the next week or so. Now, they are saying in all these places we can go out to buy food, we can go out to get pharmacy stuff, essentials, to go to the hospital if we're sick. Outside of that, we really should not be interacting with people. And that's because it's been said a million times, COVID-19 coronavirus uh, has people who are infected be asymptomatic for a little while, whether it's a few days to up to, craziest length I've heard, 27 days. So what that means is you could feel fine, but you could pass the disease to others. And it's a crazy disease from what I've heard. Now, the Chicago mayor, Lori Lightfoot, has said this is not a lockdown or martial law because they're saying things like pharmacies, groceries, and clinics aren't closed. Garbage will be collected. I guess that's a good thing. But what is martial law? Because that's something that has been thrown around a lot. Because right now the government is asking its citizens just to not leave the house. Nobody's being arrested so far. No fines have been levied from what I know of. But what is martial law so we know what we're talking about? Martial law is the imposition of direct military control of normal civilian functions by a government, especially in response to a temporary emergency such as invasion or major disaster or an occupied territory. We're in the major disaster section of this. So I know the military has been asked for by many places. Here in New York, we asked for FEMA and the National Guard to help. And I'm sure you've seen those World Star videos about Humvees driving around the streets of Brooklyn. And that's a good thing. We asked them to be here and they're helping. But what happens if it all goes sideways? Well, as it turns out, the federal government has a plan already. This is from the Daily Mail. The four-star general who will command the U.S. if government is crippled by coronavirus. Military puts plan in place for extraordinary circumstances and martial law. Newsweek reports that the U.S. military planners are looking at a range of radical hypotheticals amid the corona crisis. Should the country's top politicians be struck down by COVID-19 and civil government be incapacitated, martial law could be imposed. General Terence J. O'Shaughnessy is the combatant commander for the United States and would lead the country if Washington were crippled. The scenario appears highly unlikely, but there are also current debates about whether armed forces could be allowed to exercise emergency authority. The military could possibly serve a policing function if widespread violence breaks out due to food shortages or financial chaos caused by coronavirus. I just, I know that the government has to prepare for these things because they have to prepare for every contingency, but it makes my blood run cold knowing that the government is actually planning this, just in case it all goes sideways. We're in a new territory, one anonymous senior military official told the publication. General Terence J. O'Shaughnessy is the. I already read that. So this is General O'Shaughnessy. This is the man who would take over if our government is overwhelmed by the coronavirus and it can't function by itself. Here's to hoping that never happens. It looks like the French and English are having problems again. This time, uh, French border guards impound truck filled with 130,000 face masks bound for Britain for NHS workers battling coronavirus. As it turns out, the masks made it to their final destination, which is a good thing. We don't want people on the front lines battling the coronavirus to not have the equipment they need. But this is showing you the severity at which countries are handling this. And I'm just hoping that all these measures that are being taken by the US government are temporary because we want people to have their liberties and freedoms while at the same time having peace and prosperity. And peace and prosperity here means people aren't getting sick, people have food to buy. And here's to hoping we figure it out because in 40 days is the predicted peak here in the United States, and I'm hoping we can handle it. This is Alan Imperial signing off.